Hey, it's Tpok and I'm back in Katawa Shoujo. So, yeah. Let's get into it. Well, I don't remember where we left off, though. Oh well. Class is uneventful, and after the final bell rings, I find myself alone with Matao again. So it looks like we've all assembled for the second meeting of the science club. Or is it the first? What do you think? Should we count yesterday as a meeting? Well, we did form the club yesterday, didn't we? That seems like club business, so we can safely call yesterday a meeting. Matao smiles in his usual stilted and awkward way. I wonder if the muscles in his face are just not shaped correctly to let him smile naturally. You really have a knack for this, I think. Logical thought processes, that is. I guess so. A scientist speaks with authority, so the answer here is yes, I do. Need to stop right-clicking. When the world wants you to know how it works, we tell it. Even if all we've got is a decent hypothesis. But we must sound certain anyway, because we're the authorities on the subject, right? He chuckles to go along with his awkward smile at his awkward joke. I'm doing my best not to grimace, but I don't think I'm being too successful. That's entirely false, of course. We know a lot, sure, but nobody's an expert on how the world works, if only because nobody can be sure. With no certainty, there are no experts. But we do like to pretend sometimes. There's some things we can be certain of, right? Yes, but no. Oh, that was... okay, never mind. We know gravity's there, for example. To illustrate, Matao picks up a pencil and drops it. See, he's still there, but it's a good check. It's good to check every once in a while. That's why you still see researchers mucking about with gravity. We're pretty sure we know how it works, but there's always a chance that something isn't how we think it is. So you check and check and check. That's science in a nutshell, Hisao. The whole time I've listened feeling rather spellbound. Matao seems to be really passionate about this stuff, I think. It's hard to tell sometimes. How the world works, how humans work, how the universe works. All these questions to be answered. And depending on what I go into, maybe I could even figure out a way to fix my heart. That said, I don't think that's a real priority for me. Besides, as we start discussing the book he gave me yesterday, I found myself more and more interested in that than my heart condition. Before we even realize it, an hour's gone by. Well, let's call this meeting over for now, okay? We'll have another meeting tomorrow, or the day after. He considers this for a moment. Call it the day after, I've got grading to do. Okay, see you then. As I exit the classroom, I realize that I don't really have anything to do tonight. Emmy and I didn't make plans, so I guess I'll go to the library. It beats doing homework in my room anyway. The library always seems cooler than the rest of the building. Probably to keep books from getting damaged by excessive heat and humidity. Books are sturdy objects, but if you want to keep them in good condition, it takes a little effort. I've got several books that are so well worn, the pages are barely clinging to the spine. It seems impossible for them to still be usable, but if you handle them with care. I make my way to the main desk, where I spot Yuko busying herself with something or another. She smiles at me as I enter and waves. Hello, Sal. Good to see you again. What are you looking for this time? Nothing in particular, I guess. I just didn't really feel like going back to my room is all. Yuko nods. Well, if you're unoccupied, maybe you could help me look for something. Sure, what do you need? Yuko brings a finger to her lips and looks around furtively. She seems to be looking for eavesdroppers. Come closer. I take a few hesitant steps forward while feeling distinctly unnerved. Yuko lowers her voice to a confidential whisper. I'm on the trail of the Yamaku cat burglar. The what? Shh, the walls have ears, Hisao. Or they might. But listen, those missing books, remember them? Yeah? Well, they weren't missing, they were stolen. I'm convinced of it. I remember you saying something of the sort earlier, but how do you know? Yuko leans in closer and, if possible, whispers even lower. Because I found one of his hiding places. You did what? Yuko looks around triumphant. Found one of his stashes. It was under one of the stairwells in the boys' dorm. 3 books I'd been looking for, all there. I'd suspected a thief before, but this proves it. So did you take back the books? Yuko looks as if I'd just suggested you walk around naked. Are you nuts? You can't know I'm on to him. He might go to ground and evade capture. Uh-huh. So what do you need my help with then? Yuko casts another glance around the library and leans in closer. You've got to spy for me. Spy? Yeah, like when you're in the dorms, you know. Keep an eye out for suspicious activity. What constitutes as suspicious anyway? I mean, Kenji's a pretty suspicious dude, but I'll wager he barely goes to class, much less sneaks into the library to pilfer books. Still, what's the harm in saying yes? At least it'll get me out of this weird conversation. Yeah, I can do that, no problem. Yuko straightens up and claps excitedly. Great. Now hurry up and talk about something else in case someone comes in. How's the school treating you? Pretty well, actually. I've been running in the mornings with Emmy Ibarazaki, right? Yeah. How do you know? I served you 2 in the tea house, remember? I deduced that if you were going to run with anyone, it would probably be with her. She looks pleased with herself. Impressive. Anyway, yes, we've been running in the mornings. And, we've kinda started dating. Yuka claps her hands together excitedly. Really, that's great. I bet you 2 are great together. I love seeing people find one another like that, you know? I even thought to myself when you walked into the Shanghai that one time, I wonder if that kid will wind up with one of those girls. Really? Yuko doesn't seem to notice my somewhat weirded out tone and nods affirmatively. Yep, I could tell that you'd wind up with one of them, you know? I've got an eye for that sort of thing. Of course, her expression droops slightly. I'm not good at it myself. Oh, I'm sure that's not true. Oh, it's true. I met this guy once. We got along really great, but it turned out he was younger than me. And that was kind of weird, but not terribly so. What was really weird was that he disappeared one day, and I've not seen him since then. Huh, that does seem kind of odd. Doesn't it? I hope it wasn't something I did. I feel compelled to reassure her. I'm sure it wasn't. Intended to try and calm her down further, but both of us jump in surprise at the ringing suddenly coming from my pocket. Yuko sighs to steady herself as I pull the phone from my pocket. I feel a little sheepish for indirectly causing the incident. Emmy, what's up? Oh, thank God I haven't called your phone before, so I didn't know if this number would work or whether you'd pick up, and I can't. Whoa there, Emmy, slow down. What's wrong? There's a pause on the other side of the line, during which I can hear Emmy trying to control her breathing in order to calm down. Something's got her terribly agitated, and it's starting to agitate me. Can you stop by? Like, now, or shortly after now? I really, really need to talk to you. There's a tone of pleading in the last sentence that I don't think I've ever heard from her. Of course, I'll be right there. Hold steady, okay? In my increasingly agitated state, I've apparently started saying things that don't quite make sense. Okay, I'll be okay. See you soon. I press the button to end the call before slipping the phone back into my pocket. I apologize to Yuko for running off and run off. Perhaps at some point I would have stopped to think about the time or how suspicious it looks for a guy to enter the girls' dorm at this hour. Except right now I'm just concerned with getting to Emmy and finding out what's wrong and how I can help her. I knock on the door and I'm greeted with a subdued come in. Something is very wrong as I stare at the scene before me. Emmy's there, yes, but she's in a wheelchair, and her legs are missing. I glance around the room and see them sitting in the corner like they've been thrown there. Emmy responds to my entrance with a lopsided grin that is both pleased to see me and completely, utterly heartbroken. Hi, Hisao. It looks like she's been crying, but if she was, she's stopped now. I notice that I'm a little out of breath, having taken the stairs 2 at a time in order to get here. My heart doesn't seem to mind the strain, though. I file this happy fact away for later consideration. Like when I'm not staring somewhat dumbstruck at my girlfriend in a wheelchair. Realize I've still not responded to her greeting, my brain lurches into gear. Emmy, what happened? Guess I should have listened to you, Hisao. My leg's got a nasty infection, and I'm not allowed to run on it for at least a couple of weeks. She gives a bitter laugh that shouldn't be coming from her. I can't even walk on it. I could have used a crutch and kept one of my legs, but I didn't see the point. Why, how? You can't run on one leg. At least this way I can still, I don't know, roll fast or something. Yeah, that's good, right? My awkward attempt to look on the bright side seems appreciated, but not really effective. Emmy shrugs again. It's just kind of a nuisance. I mean, we can't even eat up on the roof now. No wheelchair access. Yeah, but that's not a big deal, right? I mean, we can still eat together, and that's the important thing. The lopsided grin again. It hurts to look at it. I suppose so, yeah. But like I said, it's a nuisance. I mean, I haven't really used a wheelchair in, she thinks for a minute. Maybe 7 years, something like that anyway. A long time. I'm afraid I'm a bit out of practice. Well, fortunately, it's only temporary, right? Emmy nods. Oh yeah, of course. It's not like I've lost him permanently. But it's a pain in the ass all the same. I nod sympathetically. There's not much else I can do after all. What am I gonna say? I told you so? Although I did tell her to get that leg looked at. But by the time I noticed, it was too late anyway. Do you need help with anything? Or that is, can I help with anything? Emmy shakes her head and there's a bit of her usual grin back. Nah, I can manage fine by myself. Although if you want to help me over to my bed, it would save me the trouble of rolling over there myself. I blush in spite of myself. Emmy giggles. You're such a prude, Hisao. I'm not a prude. I just wouldn't want to take advantage of a young woman such as yourself. It's ungentlemanly. I wheel Emmy's chair to her bed and easily scoop her up and deposit her there. She quickly sorts herself out and sits on the side. She's actually a little heavier than she looks. It would be rude of me to observe this aloud, of course. Man, you're kind of heavy. Smack. Emmy hits me with the pillow. Ass. Just saying is all. Maybe all that running. At the mention of running, Emmy's grin falters slightly. Well, I guess I won't have to worry about that for a bit, huh? Maybe I'll lose some weight. That's what you do to lose weight, right? Cease physical activity. I'm pretty sure that's what the nurse would recommend. Speaking of which, are you still going to be showing up in the mornings? I'd hate to run a lot. Ah, shit. Emmy's sudden interjection, more disquieted muttering than anything too profane, causes me to look over in shock. She's leaning forward, trying to cover the fact that she's crying by covering her eyes with a hand. Of course, the subdued sobbing makes it pretty obvious that she's crying. Hey, I'm sorry. Forget I said anything, okay? I place a hand gingerly around her and pull her close. I can think of nothing else to say or do. How do you comfort someone who's just lost their legs again? Emmy wraps me in a hug and stays that way for a while. Sorry. I'm pretty bad at this whole comforting thing, I guess. Don't say that. I'm fine, really. Her voice is slightly muffled by my chest. I pat her head reassuringly. That's the spirit, right? You'll get through this fine, I know it. Besides, I'm here to help you, remember? Emmy lifts her head and stares at me with tear-stained eyes. Can you? Can you really? She's grinning lopsidedly, and something sparkles in her gaze. I can't tell if I'm being mocked or not. Of course, I mean, sure. You're a bit heavy, but oomph. My witty comment is cut off by the sudden press of Emmy's lips on mine. I'm caught off guard, and I'm rewarded by hitting my head on the wall behind her bed. Ow. Emmy pulls back, trying to look concerned rather than she's about to laugh. Are you okay? Sorry. I rub my head ruefully and grin back at her. Caught me off guard there. Is that going to become a habit? Am I going to be lectured by Shizune and Misha more? At the mention of the duo, Emmy giggles. Honestly, those two. If I didn't know why, I'd be utterly confused as to why she hangs around with someone so bossy. Which one are we talking about? You know exactly which one. Hisao. Misha's hardly bossy. So what's the reason then? Huh? The reason why Misha hangs around Shizune. Emmy waves my question off with a smile. No idea. I see. Anyway, you seem to be forgetting the original question, don't you? Oh yeah, I guess I am. You wouldn't mind giving a guy a little warning, would you? Otherwise I'm liable to wind up with a concussion. I emphasize the point by rubbing at the back of my head. Emmy giggles madly. You could wear a helmet. Some kids here do, you know. Or I could just take revenge. Grab a pillow from beside me and whack Emmy over the head. Emmy topples off the bed and lands on the floor with a thump. Her arms promptly reappear on the bed and she manages to pull herself back up. She really has a surprising amount of strength in that little body. Her face is turned downwards and away from mine, making me think I accidentally hurt her. Emmy, you okay? You didn't hit your... A hand shoots up and grabs my collar. She pulls me in with a sharp tug, her face now barely an inch away from mine as she grins cheekily. Emmy? Ow. She gives me a sharp headbutt, our foreheads making quite a loud thud. I sit back and rub my now sore head as Emmy smirks victoriously. How's that for revenge? No fair. You can't take revenge for revenge. For someone missing most of their legs, Emmy's surprisingly agile. I swipe at her, but she deftly rolls out of the way and lands a hit with her pillow. Of course, the odds are against her. I can stand up for starters. Oof. Okay. Guess I can after all. Emmy seems to have effectively tripped me up and is now sitting primly astride me as I lay on my back. I'm not even sure how she managed it. I win. Her eyes twinkle mischievously. I've been thoroughly defeated, and by a girl that's a fraction of my size at that. Then again, being defeated doesn't seem quite so bad. Me being positioned over my waist isn't something that I or my body can ignore easily. I open my lips to speak, but Emmy's head darts downwards before I can get so much as a word out. I give no resistance, as she presses her mouth to mine, not that I'd want to. This is different somehow. She pulls back, nips at my lower lip, and reinitiates the embrace. Her tongue darts inside my mouth, exploring. I can feel a warmth spreading through my body as my heart begins to beat faster. My mind starts to go foggy, and I become vaguely aware of my hand traveling up Emmy's blouse. Emmy gasps as I reach her breast. Then there's a giggle, and then, what is with this super upbeat music? It feels somewhat out of place. Just saying. I stare up at a grinning Emmy. Told you that makes my second win now. What? That doesn't count. You used your feminine wiles. All's fair in love and war, right? Oh, and you're even blushing. I didn't know you were a blusher, Hisao. You were blushing too, you know, probably because of your prudish ways. Even I've got to admit that this is a stupid thing to say to a woman who's currently straddling me and has been up until a few seconds ago, playing tonsil hockey with me. Ew. Why that description? Prude, am I? Well then, let's see who blushes first, shall we? I'm not sure whether the tone of her voice terrifies it or arouses me, but the question is quickly made rather moot. What the heck? Okay. Huh. Well, that happened. That was quite the transition. So she's naked now. And I've got to go, so I'm gonna end it here. So, thanks for watching, I guess. See you next time.